with the allegations against Patrick Brown and now his counter allegations against the reporting. Is there any way that he can revive his political career, I wonder? Amanda, I haven't heard from you for a while, and I'm wondering if you think that Patrick Brown could come back, whether his counter attack might just work.
Well, I don't think the revelation of a tweak of some details that happened more than a decade ago was exactly the smoking gun that he or his supporters need. Listen, these women went through a traumatic event, and anyone that knows anything about traumatic events knows that the details can be lost. And certainly when we think about even non-traumatic events that happened that long ago, the details can be lost. So can he make a comeback at some point? I think it'll take a full investigation. I think it'll take a lot of time. I think a lot of damage has been done. The accusers are standing by their allegations, and we, I think, societally have a real responsibility to stand behind them.
Jen, what do you think about this? Do you think that he's got a comeback in his future or not?
I have a lot of things to say about this. The first thing I would say is I disagree with Amanda on one point. I am very empathetic to the first accuser in this case, who was recalling an event 10 years past. You know, it turns out she wasn't in high school, she wasn't underage when these allegations happened. As much as I'm empathetic to her, I think it does fatally undermine the nature of that first allegation. However, what I understand to be on the record at this point as standing and undisputed by Patrick Brown, as far as I understand this, is that is the second allegation, and that is, as a 34-year-old federal MP, he met an 18-year-old woman in the airport, thought she was cute, started texting her on Facebook, hired her to work in his constituency office, then proceeded to party with her and a bunch of other people. They all got so face-smashingly drunk that they wound up back at his personal residence, and they wound up in some kind of disputed situation, whether or not it reached a sexual point or not a sexual point. He says he kissed her, or she says that he, courted her, other way around. He's saying she kissed him. We get into he said, she said stuff. But the stuff that isn't disputed raises serious red flags for me. And what I don't like is the way that Patrick Brown is addressing and approaching these allegations and claims. If he could come forward and said something to the effect of, I don't think that I engaged in any sexual misconduct. However, I could see how being this woman's employer, the age difference involved, the power dynamics involved with a little maturity and hindsight, it wasn't the appropriate situation for me to have been in, and I apologize for making her uncomfortable. I think that actually could have been a place where he could have redeemed himself. But for him to take this super aggressive approach, to be hiring PIs, to be discrediting these women, for these women to be getting attacked on social media and exposed on social media, that is totally unacceptable. That shows absolute emotional immaturity and lack of respect and lack of leadership on his part. And there's a certain degree of personal responsibility that he has to take in this, and he has failed to do that up until this point, and it makes me angry.
Ian, she did have a lot to say about that, didn't she? Do you agree with some of that or all of it?
Every single word she said. And every single word Amanda said is absolutely accurate. And right now, I don't think I could be more disgusted by any single individual who would work for Patrick Brown in this particular instance. I just am. I think every single one of the tactics that they're currently deploying is bottom of the barrel politics, and people are going to remember this for a very, very long time. I know I am. I think that anybody who cares about women's role in politics needs to be standing up online, needs to be standing up in their houses, at their dining room table, and then with that weird uncle again, who we keep talking about, who just doesn't get it, because this is a moment to get it, folks. We have to get it. We have to truly understand it.
Go ahead.
Can I just say one more thing? I think, just to be clear, because I do disagree with Jen on saying that to have lost a detail that happened a decade ago fatally undermines the credibility of the story.
No, it fatally undermines one of the accusers.
So I just want to say, So I just want to say to that accuser, if you're watching, I believe you. You are brave and you were courageous and you came forward, and because you lost a detail that happened over a decade ago, I challenge anyone to remember the finer details that are a year this or a year that. The action is the issue, and
we're running a little short of time. I'll come back to you, Jen, but I do want to hear.
Was a remarkable thing.
Fair enough. I do want to hear from Bruce and from Tim on this before we go too much further. Bruce, is it playing?
I'll be
playing
brief.
How does it sound, all of this in Winnipeg? Is this all in the Ontario bubble, do you think?
Whether or not it is, I think it draws the entire political spectrum into the light. I think Mr. Brown is groping at straws with some of the tactics that he's using, and I love to be a fly on the wall in the discussions in the back room. Okay, how are we going to handle this? You know, well, let's discredit the accusers. You know, it's a sordid business, and I think his political career is spiraling downward.
Tim,
he has has every right to defend himself, but he's doing what he did and was trained in politics to do, which isn't the way to handle this. Come out, go aggressively after the individuals who are making charges against you, make very strong and forceful statements. I think he believes, and there is a certain reservoir of people out there who are willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not sure casting yourself as a victim, as he is now trying to say that he is the wisest thing to do. I would also say Patrick needs to be mindful that before all of this happened, he wasn't seen as an empathetic figure. He's not going to turn himself into one now. I get his anger, I get his frustration, but I think there perhaps are better ways for him to mount his defense than he's doing.
You very rarely
with that.
attacking.
just make one point. She's not a member of the Power Panel, but I did speak to the PC leadership candidate, Christine Elliott, earlier. Take a look at her comment on this.
Well, there's no question that there have been some things that have come to light that are not ideal, to say the least, but we're working on those things, and I have confidence in what Vic Fideli and other members of the party are doing now to fix that, to make sure that we have a good, solid membership list, that we have a solid and secure way to vote in this election. But I think we also need to remember that we have a really good, solid foundation.
All right, that was more about the party and the race ahead rather than about Patrick Brown, so it wasn't completely relevant to our discussion. Jen, I know you wanted to get back in to straighten out something.
Yes, because I want this to be totally clear. I believe the first accuser too. I don't believe she's consciously or intentionally lying or misleading. I completely understand and agree that when you're trying to recall something that happened 10 years ago, you can fuss on the details. Maybe it happened before she graduated high school. Maybe it happened after she graduated high school. Maybe it happened when she was 18, when she was 19. I totally I believe her, and I want to make that entirely clear. When I say that I think it fatally undermined the allegation, the reason why that one allegation was so damaging was because it had to do with an allegation about an underage female and being served alcohol. And when you take that element out of that allegation, I think that becomes a harder thing for the reporter in this case to defend. I think CTV did make a mistake there. But that being said, I don't think that washes. I don't think that makes these allegations go away. I don't think that makes Patrick Brown a great guy. I don't think that takes away any of these problems for him.
Point made. Tim, you want to?
Yeah, I just want to say also probably Patrick and his team are trying to calculate that the MeToo movement has gone very far. A lot of people have rightly been called out. There have likely been some innocent victims. There's been a bigger public debate about the need to find some balance in here. They're likely trying to ride that wave, but I'm not sure the strategy they're employing is going to do that for them.
All right, we're afraid we're going to have to leave it there.
I can't name a single man in Hollywood or in politics.
Sorry, finish your point, Ian. Sorry, I talked over you. Finish your point.
No, I don't think that there are any innocent victims in the Me Too movement here. I think that when we believe women, that is where we start all of this. And moreover, I think that what Christine Elliott was talking about actually is connected to a lot of this, because there seemed to be a rot within the Ontario PC movement. Let's not forget that Dean Del Mastro was also connected to this, who is, was literally arraigned and put in jail. So there is a rot. There is sort of a willy-nilliness about the rules of politics, with ballot stuffing being accused, false membership lists, and a whole host of other accusations that now Vic Fideli has to clean up. That's not the position you want to be in right before a provincial election. Particularly when you could have compared and contrasted yourself with the Liberals, who are accused of, let's face it, very similar things. Removing records from a chief of staff's office, been put on trial in Northern Ontario. None of this is good for the confidence of Ontarians in the Pink Palace in Queen's Park.
We'll see how right you are, but unfortunately we're out of time. It's time for me to thank the Power Panel, Jen Gerson, Bruce Spence. I want to thank you especially for joining us today, Amanda Alvaro, Ian Capstick, and Tim Powers. Good discussion today. Thanks to you all.